This is an introductory video on the workings of the Mars Martial Arts Registration System software package. To assist me in this demo, in this introductory demo, I'll use two folders. The first one titled First Use, and it will show you how the system will react the very first time you use it. And then this folder called Adults Demo, which will show you how the system will react on subsequent occasions. So the very first time you start up the package, it gives you this introductory screen. Over here you will have the name of your martial arts dojo if you decide to purchase the software, and a serial number assigned to you. When you go ahead, it tells you this is the first time use of the software. You need to make a one-time selection for the date format. Which of these date formats do you want to work in? Month, day, year, day, month, year, month, day. You can use the up and down keys to make your selection. Hit enter. It reminds you you selected this format. Confirm it 3 times. And now it reminds you that you are working in this format. This reminder will appear on many screens. So at this point it comes up with today's date. Simply verify the date. If it is okay, you hit enter to go ahead. If it is not okay, you can overwrite on this date and then go ahead. It reminds you again this is a first time use of the system. Enter the system password. You won't see it on the screen, but carefully enter the password. It is case sensitive. Reminder again, this is a first time use of the system. Now it tells you on the next screen you have to complete option A, parameters first, to define parameters or settings that will control the system. Without option A, parameters, only documentation is accessible and nothing else. So if you go ahead, this is your parameters. The screen is empty. Let me go back for a moment by hitting the escape key. Again, reminds you as a first time use. Go ahead. If you try to access locations, reminds you you can't do it. You must put in parameters first. You try students, can't do it, parameters first, and so on. So this is your parameters screen. In the first section you will define your style of martial arts and the rank levels and the minimum requirements for rank advancement. So for example, you will say from rank 1 with its belt color to rank 2 with its belt color. How many hours does the student need to put in before he or she is considered eligible to test for the next rank? So you can put in hours and or use the X symbol, the X letter, and or calendar days required for a student to be eligible to test from one rank to the next. So from rank 1 to rank 2, whatever the requirement is, from rank 2 to rank 3, whatever the requirement is, and so on. So over here you will define essentially your style of martial arts, the ranking system, and what it takes to advance from one rank to the next. Over here there are other controls that will identify how the system will work from now on. So at this point I'm going to escape out of the system and fire up this software right here. It's the same software, just a different folder. And let's see how the system reacts on subsequent occasions. The primary screen comes up. Again, it will have the name of your school and so on. You have already selected what date format you want to work in. Just a reminder here, it brings up today's date. If it's okay, just hit enter, otherwise rewrite the new date over this one. Now, remember, this is not the first time use, this is subsequent use. So each time you come in, it'll ask you, do you want to get into the system with the password or without the password? With the password, you can do everything the system is programmed to do. Without the password, there are some limitations. And again, this is to safeguard data because students will be using the system without the password. So right now, we'll say, yes, I want to go ahead with the password. So I put in the password, hit enter, and now we have full access to whatever the system has to offer. Full access. And let's say these are the parameters we put in the first time we entered the system. So what we said is that these examples are based on the Aikido system. So I'll be referring to the word Aikido several times. So in the Aikido ranking system, when someone comes on to the mat for the first time, he or she is a white belt. The rank description is white, the belt color is white. And then we have the ranking system 6Q, 5Q, 4Q all the way down through here. So we have said that in our system, and these are dummy entries. These are not the actual hours that are used in our system in Rochester. So we've said that to go from white belt to 6Q, this person must put in 10 hours on the mat to be deemed eligible to test for the next rank. To go from 6Q to 5Q, you need 20 hours under your belt. From 5Q to 4Q, 30 hours, and so on down the line. Again, these are dummy entries. I've just gone up in steps of 10, 20, 30, 40, and so on. So this identifies your ranking structure and what it takes to proceed from one rank to the next. The rest of these parameters, let's go through them very quickly. Default location code. Your training location must be assigned a code. In this case, when I first started the system, I said A1. I could have said 11, 21, 31, AB, BC, whatever, doesn't matter, but we need a code. Liability forms. In our school of martial arts, any student coming onto the mat for the first time requires to sign a one-time liability release form. So when I say yes over here, the system will then force me to put in the text of the liability release form directly onto the computer, so that during sign up, the system will guide the student into reading and accepting the liability form right on the screen. Minimum age for practice 7 years and adult age for 18 years. This kind of ensures that you don't inadvertently put in a child into the adult system and an adult into the child system. Student inactive after so many days off. We've said 60. You can put in any number you want, 40, 50, 60, 70, 99, whatever. What this means is that if a student does not show up on the mat for 60 consecutive calendar days, that student's record will be considered inactive. It's still physically there in the current system, but it's considered inactive so that it will not show up anymore on reports. You don't want someone reporting out who hasn't shown up on the mat for a long time. Backup thumb drive. On this computer on which I'm doing the demo, I have a USB port that registers as an E drive. So you need to plug in for your computer the drive letter of any active USB port, because you will be taking backup copies of your data not directly onto this computer itself, but also onto an external USB port. So you need to identify which USB port will be used on your system. Minimum black belt level. In the Aikido system of martial arts, the Shodan rank is the first black belt, and that happens to fall at level 8 in the Aikido system. So I plug in the number 08 right here. For example, if in my style of martial arts, whatever these ranks are, the proverbial black belt falls at this level. So in that case, in my style of martial arts, I would put 05 over here. By identifying the black belt level, what this does is, some reports will ask you, do you want this report for seniors only or juniors only or both? Juniors only are those who are not yet a black belt. Seniors are black belts and above, like the second degree black belts, third degree, and so on. So this helps to pull off the appropriate report if you only want juniors or if you only want seniors, and of course if you want both, it doesn't matter. Tryout days, we have put in 7. You can put anything you want, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever. You are willing to give a new student so many free days of dojo time, so he or she can evaluate your style of martial arts and your dojo and can decide if this is the right martial arts for that student. So if a student can come in, a student is allowed 7 free days to try out the dojo, and if he or she attends for longer than 7 days, then some payment would be expected from the student. System type: A for adults, K for kids, C for combo. And the reason is, for example, in the Aikido martial arts system, the rank designations for kids is totally different from the rank designations for adults. So at least in the Aikido system, we have to have separate systems for rank advancement. Therefore, if I have a separate system entirely for kids, I will have the appropriate ranks defined for kids, and this will have a K for kids. And of course, if you have the same rank system for both, you can put in a C for combo, implying adults and kids can go into the same database. Adult fee, adult college student fee, child fee. These are not the exact numbers in our dojo, but you can put whatever you want down here, and this is merely a memory jogger. If somebody walks onto the mat and into your dojo and asks what's the fee schedule, if the numbers have slipped your mind, simply go to option A and they are right there. So these are just for memory joggers. Change the date format. You can, if you want to change the date format in the middle of the system, but if you started with this one, stay with it. It's up to you, but you can change the date format. So if you make any changes over here, you can page up or down to accept the changes. For example, if I make a change here, I don't have to hit the enter key a million times to get down here. Make the change, simply hit page up or page down. That's a shortcut way of saying, go ahead, I'm done with the screen. If you make some changes and decide you don't really want those changes, escape to exit, no change will take place. So having defined your parameters, you can now go ahead and start plugging in data. Please understand the hierarchy. You must have a training location defined first before you can add students into the training location, and you must have the location and the student defined first before you can add mat hours for that student or promotions for that student or accept dues from that student, etc. So let's take a look at option B. You will see this cascade on many screens, the add, edit, delete, and list cascade of options. Under option C, I'm going to use the letters so it avoids using the mouse. It's much faster. Option C, add, edit, delete and list. Option D, add, edit, delete and list. The same for promotions. The same for dues. For dues descriptions and dues received, there are two components. So for dues descriptions, again, add, edit, delete and list. For dues received, the same thing. So this cascade of options is there because there are several types of data. Locations data different from students data, different from math hours and so on. So for each type of data you should be able to add, edit, delete and list the data from that data set. Okay, locations. Since we already have this database set up for the demo, the add a training location won't do anything for me. It says you already have one training location defined in the system. You can have only one location per system copy. However, if I want to edit the location, and that's the location code I had used the first time, I'll see the same screen for add a location that I see under edit. So if this was the first time I was coming in, I had defined a location code. The location code was already, sorry, let me just go back for a moment. Under parameters, you've already said this is your default location code. So when you go to add a location, I'm just going to use edit for now. This will come up with the default you've already put in. And then you plug in the rest of the information, the site description, the address, location, zip code, phone number, whatever. So having added a training location, if you want to make any change to it, you can of course use the edit key. Make any change you want, it will take place, it will take effect. Let's look at deleting the training location. This is the location I want to delete. Let's confirm the delete. Watch what happens if you say yes. Caution, if you delete this training site, the system will have to delete all student records and all associated attendance, ranks, payments and other records at this site. In other words, everything will be lost. The next use of the system will become a first time use of the system. Clearly, if you don't have a training location, you can't have students defined. If you can't have students, you don't have their attendance dates or their promotions or their dues and so on. So it's a hierarchical system and we have to maintain data integrity. So if you confirm yes 3 times, you will lose everything. So I'm going to safely hit the escape key and back out. The list simply lists the data out and you cannot inadvertently make any change. You won't get the cursor to show up. So between edit and list, if you only want to look at the data, select list instead of edit, so you cannot inadvertently make any change. Let's look at students. The same thing, you can add students, edit them, delete them, list them. Okay, let's add a student. We already have many students in the system. We actually have many students who haven't shown up for years in the system. We need to do some house cleaning, which we haven't done yet. Anyway, add a student. To keep this quick, I'm going to put in the number 1 for his name and every other piece of data. The sex code requires male or female. Watch what happens. Date of birth reminds me it's an adult, and that's okay. We are in the adult system, otherwise you would have had an objection. Now watch what happens when you try to go ahead. The state code needs 2 letters. Touch any key and the cursor comes to rest right in that field. So you must have 2 letters there or you can't go ahead. I'm going to page up or page down to say, okay, continue, I'm done with this. The zip code must be in this format. Touch any key. I have to put in this. The phone must be in this format and so on and so forth. So I'm going to just make sure that everything is plugged in. Watch what it says again. Invalid email address, no @ sign. Touch any key, requires an @ sign. It doesn't matter where you put it. If you now go ahead, says so far so good. Now, before you can be allowed on the training mat, a one-time liability release form for this year needs to be signed by you. If you remember, in option A we said yes for liability release forms. So, touch any key to continue, and this is the legal text of your liability release form. You will get an option under utilities to actually create the legal text of your liability release form. We'll see that later, but your liability release form doesn't have to be 5 pages down. It can be just 1 page or whatever. But let's pretend for now that the student sees the actual legal mumbo jumbo and reads this. So it tells the student page up or page down to read the contents and escape when done reading. So the student is signing himself or herself up, reads the contents, his escape. Having read through the liability release form, do you wish to continue with the sign up? Yes. Confirm one more time your 3 initials, 111. How many hours for today do you want to sign yourself up for? It's either 1 or 2. Let's leave it at 1. It says you have been signed up. Remember, this is a one-time shot only. Subsequently, when the student comes in, he or she simply plugs in the mat hours for the day. So now it says for today you have opted for 1 hour as mat time. For future mat time, don't forget to add hours into the system using option D1. Touch any key. Now it says, do you have another student to sign up? If the answer is no, hit the escape key, and we have signed up a student. Let's list out who has signed up. If you leave the last name blank, it starts off from the very first record it can find, which happens to be the new one we just put in. Or you can put in a couple of leading characters of the last name. It picks up the earliest one it can find, and so on. So let's list out. This is a student we just signed up. This was the first name. Remember, you're on the list, so you can't make any change, even accidentally, to the data. First name, last name, personal data, right there. And here's a little status of his membership status and so on. Rank history, he has no rank history yet. It says that he is a white belt. He came on board on this date. Since then he put in 1 hour. Remember, he signed up and asked for 1 hour for the day. He is active because he showed up on this date. Eligible to test? Not yet, because he's down. Look at the minus sign, by 9 hours. Remember, in option A parameters, we said that to go from the basic white belt rank to the next available rank, you need 10 hours of training. So he has put in 1 hour. He's down by 9 hours. So he's eligible to test? No, he's not eligible to test. You can always page down to the next few people and so on and so forth. Let me just bring up my record for a moment because I want to emphasize the list option a bit more. This is my data. You can again page up, page down from here onwards. This portion gives you some information about the student, the name, the address, location, and everything. Obviously, to safeguard data for the purposes of this demo, all first names have been reduced to first initials, and the addresses and so on have been replaced with 9. So this is the primary information for the student. This section here is a quick and dirty status on the student, and this is the rank history. Quick and dirty status says his membership is active because he last came into the dojo on this date. Now let me tell you something, we have not been to the dojo in several months because of the coronavirus crisis. In effect, every record is actually inactive because we just haven't shown up, and our requirement says 60 days. If you're out for 60 days, you are inactive. So I have activated a couple of records by giving myself a dummy date, and I gave another friend of mine a dummy date, and I created a third record from scratch. So essentially there are only 3 active records in this database. So I am active because I last came in on this date. My showdown rank was achieved on this date. Since then I put in so many hours into the system. Am I eligible to test for the next rank? Yes, because I'm ahead by so many hours. There's no negative sign over there. So from Shodan to Nidan in our parameters we required I think 70 or 80 hours. I've already put in so many hours, so I'm ahead by so many hours, and therefore I'm eligible to test. My rank history is up here. Here's how you read the rank history. I started as a white belt on 3/12/2011. Since then I put in so many hours over so many days to reach this date, and that's when I tested for 6th Q. Since then I put in so many hours over so many days to reach this date when I tested for 5th Q, and I put in so many hours over so many days to reach that date, and so on and so forth. And it's the same thing for everybody's data. Let me see if somebody, we have a lot of very old data. Let's take a look at this person who just showed up. Okay, this person, his membership is inactive. This should look red in color. It's kind of a not a very healthy red, but he is inactive, otherwise it would show up in green. He is out of the dojo so many days. He last came in on 3/9, so he has been out of the dojo for so many days. His current rank is Sandan, obtained on this date. Since then he has put in so many hours. He is eligible to test because he is ahead by so many hours, and so on. Now we don't have a complete history on this person. We just have to put in some dummy numbers. He started Aikido on 9/1/2001 and tested for his Shodan, his first black belt, on 5/16/2004, and so we've had to plug in some dummy records. All this data came in from an older system, and there were lots of problems with that data that came down the pike to us. So it has been quite an effort trying to get things organized. In any event, so you can edit a student's record. If you want to start at the very top, you simply put in 0 and it comes up with the very first record in alphabetical order. So this was the student we put in. Let me edit some of his data. State requires to be intact. Email address, you can always use the page up or page down to accept it. This is the next person, next person, next person. If you go back to the first one, these are the changes we made. Remember, in edit mode you can make all your changes. Escape. If I come back in again, I can simply put in 1 over there to start directly at him. These are the changes we made. You can delete the record, bring it up to the screen, accept it. It says confirm the delete. It reminds you this is the student's name. So it reminds you, if you delete this record, the system will have to delete his attendance, ranks, and payments records. This person has no payment made yet, but he does have a rank, the very basic white belt rank, and he does have an attendance record, at least one, for the first date of attendance. Confirm the delete 3 times. If you delete the student, his record has been deleted. So we don't have a rank for him or nothing now. He is out of the system. Comes up with the next one. You want to confirm the delete? No. Escape, escape, and we are done. If you list it out, start at 0, he's not there anymore. So if you delete a student, the system automatically deletes his mat attendance, promotions if any, dues paid if any, to maintain system integrity. Let's look at mat hours. Now we already have several students listed in there, but most of them are inactive, so let's pick up the one from the earliest. Let's try and give him some mat hours. This person, before you can enter hours for mat time, a one-time liability form needs to be signed by you. This person hasn't shown up on the mat in this year, so the system wants a liability form. It'll go through the same process as before to make this person active, and then you can put in time for this person. I'm going to escape. I'm going to add mat hours for myself. It defaults to today's date, but I could be entering this after the fact, so you can put in any date you want. So let's say 0701, 0701, I had 1 hour recorded, touch any key. On 0705, I had 5 hours, obviously an exaggeration, recorded. And 0710, I had 10 hours. Okay. Let me list out my hours. Now the 2020 hours are right here. So 0701, 1 hour, 0705, 07. Remember, I had already put in an 0708 for myself before, and this is the 0710, and my hours are listed right there. You can page down. I have many hours, so 19, 18, 17, and so on. You can edit the hours. Now you can pick and choose which hour, which date and hour you want to change. So let's say I pick this one and say it wasn't actually on the 10th, I had come in on the 9th, and it wasn't 10 hours, it was 9 hours. It's done. Touch any key. If you go back now, it's right there, 709, 9 hours. So you can edit the dates you want, but there are limitations. I'll explain that in a moment. And you can delete any date entry you want. Select the student first, pick and choose the date entry you want to edit, and let's just say, just for the heck of it, I did not come on 314. I want to delete this one. Delete this record. Yes, done. Touch any key, and now the 314 record is not there, and so on. And of course you can list out my dates of attendance. You can always, you first have to select the student for whose dates you want, and so on. And there they are. You can't make any change accidentally or otherwise because you're in the list mode. Always between list and edit, if you just want to look at the data, please select list. Now there are some limitations on the mat hours editing. So let's say I want to edit mat hours for this person, Jones. This is a new record I put in, a dummy record. Now he started on this date, so he had a rank of white belt on this date. Then on this date he tested for the next rank, and on this date he tested for a rank. So in other words, this is a rank date, not just an ordinary date. This is a ranked date, and this is a ranked date. So watch carefully. I'm going to edit this date. Let me just go back so I can, okay, so 115 is the ranked date and 105 is the ranked date. So if I try to change this date to say 101, can't allow this change. The date you are trying to change to conflicts with other ranked dates. System integrity will be lost. Touch any key and no change has been made. Because this is a ranked date, this is a higher rank than this one, I can't move this date to an earlier date. Let's see if I can move this one to something like February. Now remember, this also is a ranked date, so 0201. Can't allow this change. The date you are trying to change to conflicts with other ranked dates and system integrity will be lost. So this has not been changed to a date higher than this because this is a lower rank than this one. Now a non-ranked date you can change. So say, oops, I made a mistake and I didn't come on Monday 120. I came on 122, which is a Wednesday, for 1 hour. It's done. Whoops. And there we are. It's changed to 122. So there are checks and balances all over the system. And there you have it for the dates module. Mat hours or attendance dates. For the moment, I'm going to take a small tangent and don't worry about this right now. I'm going to restore the data back to what it was before I made all these changes. So anyway, let's look at promotions. Add a promotion. Let's pick a student to add a promotion and see what it says. This person is inactive and cannot be promoted. Obviously you have to come into class to take a test to be promoted, so if you're inactive you haven't been to class for at least 60 days in our system. Okay, let me add a promotion for an active record for myself. Promote this person from Shodan to Nidan. Hold on for a moment, and if you look at my record, whoops, I am eligible to test for the next rank. I am currently a Shodan, so I am eligible to test for the next rank. So let me give myself a promotion. Do you want to promote this student from Shodan to Nidan? Yes. Enter the date of promotion. It comes up with today's date, but you could be doing this after the fact, so you can put in whatever the date of promotion was. Let me just say, whoops, 0701 is when I got promoted. Proceed. Yes, it's done. If you now look at my record on the students list, I am now a Nidan. I was a Shodan, I was eligible to test, I tested for Nidan. Now obviously, since I got my Nidan, I only put in 2 hours, so I'm not eligible to test for the next rank because I'm down by 88 hours. It needs, in our system, with dummy data, from Nidan to Sandan, you need 90 hours of training. So let me try and give myself a promotion again. This person is not eligible to test and should not have been tested. Do you want to make an exception? If you say no, of course, there's no change made. I make an exception. So do you want to promote this person from Nidan to Sandan? Yes. The date of the promotion. If I again put in 0701, says the date has to be higher than 0701, which is the date of last promotion. Touch any key. So let's say I say 0702, proceed, yes, it's done. Let me give myself one more promotion. Once again, I'm not eligible to test. It should not have been tested. Do you want to make an exception here? Yes. From Sandan to Yondan. Promotion date 0703. Proceed. Yes, it's done. If I now look at my student's record, I'm now a Yondan. I was a Shodan. I was eligible to test for Nidan. It went through. Nidan to Sandan, I wasn't eligible, but I overwrote it. And Sandan to Yondan wasn't eligible, but I went through anyway. So there you have the promotions module. Now let's continue looking at it some more. This is the usual cascade: add, edit, delete, and list options. But there is nothing to edit in a promotion. You either promote someone or you don't promote him. And if you've accidentally promoted the wrong person, you can delete the promotion. In effect, you can demote that person. So the edit option says this is merely a dummy option. If an error is made in the promotion, delete the erroneous promotion and re-enter the correct promotion, if any. So just to keep in line with the add, edit, delete, and list, I've plugged this in. Delete a promotion. You want to demote someone. Demote this person. From Yondan, entered on 7-3. Yes, and it's done. Again, demote this person. Now I'm a Sandan. Demote this person from Sandan, entered on this date. Yes, it's done. I'm now a Nidan. Demote this person from Nidan, entered on this date. Yes, done. I'm now a Shodan. Back to where I was. If you look at option C4, I'm Shodan. I'm eligible to test for the next rank. This is my rank history, and so on and so forth. Back to base. The listing of promotions is the same as option C4 without the personal data. So this is it simply gives my name and the current status and the rank history. It does not give my personal information like address, telephone number, email, and so on and so forth. And so there you have it. This is the introduction to the Mars software. I have other videos for these options. So quick rundown: you must put in parameters first to define how the system will be controlled. You then have to define at least one training location. Since I can't add, I'll just use edit. The default location code is picked up from what you had entered in under parameters, and then you plug in the rest of this data and so on. Whoops. And having defined the location, you can now start plugging in students' personal data. And this is where the system guides the student into the liability release form. If you have said yes under parameters that we do have liability release forms. Having defined a location and at least a couple of students, you can then put in mat hours for those students. I hit the escape key too fast. Allow me to just get in there one more time. So having defined the location and students, you can plug in mat hours for those students, and you can plug in promotions for those students. And that's it for an introduction to the Mars Martial Arts Registration System software package.